I'm Ryan, and this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. Today we are reviewing Space, a game about customizing the rewards you receive for different die rolls, strategically navigating the probabilities in a race to 40 points.
And if you love rolling dice and customizing your own engine, then Space packages them into a pure fun experience where players are always involved. And as always, we've got a link to Space down below if you want to check it out for yourself. It's another way to support the channel, but let's jump right into it.
In Space, you are customizing the rewards that you can earn based on the results of 2 rolled dice. Each turn, you roll the dice and can either add them to trigger a single slot or take each of the dice independently to trigger 2 slots. Rewards include money, which allows you to upgrade your slots with more lucrative cards, income, which increases the value your money resets to each turn, and points, which are ultimately how you will win the game.
However, while the active player is taking the blue rewards for the slots based on their die roll, all other players also get to use the results to activate their secondary red abilities. You don't have many of these red abilities at the start of the game, but every time you gain a new card, it replaces the card in that slot, flipping and tucking it above the slot as a new red reward. Customizing the rewards that you can gain on other players' turns is just as important as customizing the rewards available on your own turn. The game is a race to 40 points, and once someone reaches that total, you finish out the round and the player with the most points is the winner.
Space is a game of building an engine that caters to how you want to play the probabilities. You can go all in on a less likely result, setting up a huge jackpot if it actually hits, or you can play much more conservatively and hedge your bets across the board. Often, a winning strategy is somewhere in between, strategically building out a tableau that triggers often and generates larger and larger payouts.
The strategic options open up with the inclusion of cards that charge when they are triggered and then give you abilities that can be used at any time. For example, you might have a card that charges when you roll a 4, but then allows you to shift a future roll 1 or 2 spaces to the right. Suddenly, a strategy built around an unlikely roll like a 12 becomes much more feasible since you can use the charge to shift a 10 or an 11. For a game built on the luck of rolling the dice, there's a surprising amount of strategic control as you choose which cards to acquire over the course of the game.
But at some point, that engine building needs to transition into a machine that actually generates points. In some cases, this may mean acquiring cards that generate points when triggered, but it can also come in the form of point cards that are always available beside the card market. These just give a one-time payout of points and also block a slot from ever being triggered or upgraded again, but are a way to convert money into points if that is a better fit for your strategy. It doesn't matter whether you chip away slowly with tiny point cards or go for rare but massive scoring plays, as long as you find a way to get to 40 points first.
Space works well anywhere from 2 to 5 players, though the player count does shift the strategic landscape. With fewer players, blue powers are stronger because you get more of your own turns to have the opportunity to trigger them. Whereas at higher player counts, red powers become even more important because there are more opponents' turns. The game flirts with being completely abstract, as the spaceship theme is just window dressing, but it is enough to at least give it a little bit of thematic flavor.
Given the core mechanism of rolling dice to activate effects, it would be easy to dismiss Space as a game mostly determined by luck. However, between the options to customize your tableau and the need to balance the pacing of engine building versus scoring points, we have found that the winner is determined by skillful play more often than you would expect. While there is certainly interaction between players as they buy cards from a common market and keep an eye on how other players are progressing toward 40 points, most of Space is spent focusing on the customization and activation of your own tableau. Setup is pretty quick as each player sets up their board with the initial cards and tracking cubes. The market decks are shuffled and dealt face up, and each player gets a random level 1 card as an initial upgrade.
Most of Space is really easy to teach, as the core mechanism of using the dice to activate 1 column or split them to activate 2 columns is intuitive. That said, the cards that charge on activation to be used later usually throw new players for a loop and almost always require clarification as the game progresses. Each player gets a sprinkle of variable setup with the random level 1 card they receive before the game begins. But the rest of the variability really comes from the shuffled deck for the market. But given the large variety of effects in those decks, that shuffle will always ensure the game plays out differently.
One of the best things about Space Base is the fact that you get to use the die results on every player's turn. This not only has interesting strategic implications with how you build out your tableau, but also keeps everyone engaged and never waiting around for their own turn.
Rolling dice is fun. Reaping rewards is fun. And Space Base is all about rolling dice and reaping rewards over and over again. There is just a pure fun factor with the core gameplay loop here as you get repeated dopamine hits from the results of the dice, hoping that they will trigger your most lucrative slots.
As you customize your card distribution, there are a lot of interesting considerations. Do you focus on cards that generate points directly or lots of money? Do you hedge your bets across the board or lean into fewer, more powerful slots? How can you use powers like charges to shift slots to make your best slots more likely to trigger? The core rolling of the dice may bring the pure fun factor, but it is the varied tableau building and ability to explore different strategies that keeps us coming back.
At the beginning of the game, your rolls are just generating a few coins and often not triggering at all on other players' turns. But as you keep acquiring cards and kicking more cards to the red side, you start to really scale your rewards. It is fun towards the end of the game to have big stacks of red abilities that could trigger, or really strong blue cards that you can manipulate to trigger more often.
One side effect of a race to a point total paired with engine building is that it can often end with some players not having fully realized their strategy or made the switch to focusing on earning points. Unlike a game where players know how many turns are left, it is easy for players to get caught off guard with an opponent's sudden push towards 40 points, robbing them of the climax of their own progression and leaving a bad taste in their mouth.
And while there are a lot of fun strategic considerations, Space Base is still a game where you can live or die by the dice. You might have a great strategy, one that even hedges your bets and uses other powers to mitigate the odds. And it is still possible that the dice just won't hit where you need them to. It is the price you pay to have the highs and excitement that come with dice, but it doesn't feel great to build up this custom tableau and then never see it really work because of something you couldn't control. And now let's get to our personal ratings for Space Base.
So for Space Base, I'm going to be coming in at an 8.5 out of 10. For me, Space Base kind of sits in this similar category to another game we really enjoy, which is the Quacks of Quedlinburg, where it's a game where you get to customize your strategy based on, you're building up what you want your strategy to be, and then you put it through this engine of luck to see how it triggers and how well it performs. And there is just a very pure fun factor with that, with just the getting to see what things trigger and what happens. And I think that just paired with what ends up being fairly interesting, like tableau building, just really works well. Like there's just some interesting considerations when you're picking cards from the market, because you're not only paying attention to, what can I afford and what's the benefit that the card actually gives me, but what slot does it go into? Because that's going to determine which slot is going to bump something to my reds, which I may have reasons for wanting to do that. And there's cards that when you activate this column, it actually bumps it over to the other column, or so you can definitely set up some little systems, or you might have a card that needs to get charged a lot to do a really big effect, and you do some other things to help that get charged more often. And that's just all fun to play with and see how it works out. And when you do have some really big thing and it hits, or like, I know the last time I played, I had something like in my high, like 11s or something, and I'd gotten a lot into the reds in that column. And then there was a round, it went around that both other players rolled it. So between in my turn, I just like reaped all of this stuff that I had then to work with. And that's just good fun. And it does that with basically no downtime. The
Mhm.
fact that you are always using everybody's result, and there's a small decision every time. Do I, use the dice together? Do I split them? Usually that I wouldn't say that's an interesting decision, because usually it's like, well, I'd rather take 3 coins than 2
Yeah.
coins.
Well,
Like
and
it's
oftentimes you're building your you're building your strategy to either towards one or the other. Like you're either
yeah,
going all in on
usually you've made one of
you're
those
either
things
going all in on
better.
the 11 or the 5 and the 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's true. But there are times where it is an interesting decision, actually, where it's like, which is more important to me now, especially when you start bringing in things like getting an income. It's like, okay, how much do I value an income that's basically an extra coin every round from now on versus money now? And I might look at the market and see if there's something that I specifically want to go after. I think also the pacing, and specifically like, when do I buy those point cards that lock down a column, and I'm never going to be able to trigger it or upgrade again, but it gives me just points up front, and there's only one of each of them. So if I take one, I've now made it that's not available for other players. I think that's probably the hardest thing for new players to internalize, is like,
yeah.
those are very good. And like, locking down a column isn't as bad as people think it is. Like usually you'll just trigger other things.
Right.
But that's a huge part of kind of a winning strategy often, is getting points from those. So yeah, it's a game I enjoy a lot and just love the pure fun factor of bringing it out. If I have any like main complaint, it is kind of that, like, you can get to the end of the game and feel like there's some people that just didn't have as good of a time as others, and there's different reasons for that. It might be someone they were unlucky, right? They were just not hitting stuff, and it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, it's a bummer.
I have had that, yes.
Yeah. And then there's times where, and it can be sneaky, and I've been on the other side of it, where like, I realize with my strategy, like, ooh, I'm going to be able to make a big push. Like, it doesn't look like I'm that close to 40, but I actually am pretty close to 40, because, and I'm like looking around the table and there's like someone else at like 6 points, and I'm like, oh no, they're probably going to be very sad when they see that I'm going to be able to like actually end it here within a couple rounds.
Right.
And so it's always a bummer to come out of the game not feeling like everybody got the really great experience. Sometimes it's a little bit more fragmented. But we talk about this a lot with games that have a lot of the luck. It's like, you raise the ceiling of the experience you can have, but you also maybe lower the floor. But yeah, I'm curious. You have not played it nearly as much as I have.
I have not.
So I'm curious kind of what your take is on it.
I really, really enjoy Space. I'm going to be coming in actually a little bit lower than you. I'm going to come in at an 8 out of 10. I was kind of going back and forth a little bit. I mean, we're right on with the just pure fun factor of it. I mean, like you mentioned, we experienced this in Quacks as well, but just this like rolling dice, reaping rewards, and it's happening on every person's turn. I mean, it's just a game of like, you're excited every turn, and that's the entire game. And so that part of it's just incredibly fun. And I find people really enjoy, like, a lot of people we introduce this game to, really just immediately, it doesn't take a while to like figure the game. It's like, as soon as you start going, you're like, okay,
and then
this
10
is awesome.
minutes in, we get the first question about, how do these charges work? It's like, without fail, like, no matter how I try to explain it,
I know,
it like ends up getting confusing.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a downside of just like they're really cool, but they just, maybe,
and I think the game needs them. I think if there wasn't that layer, I would lose interest in it.
Yeah.
But it is just a little extra hurdle for new players to get over.
Right. I think the maybe couple things that have it just not quite as high as you do. One, I do agree with. I don't love oftentimes how the game can end. It's kind of a race to 40 victory points. Is that it? And just inherently in a game like that, other people are left. It's an engine building. And I find oftentimes the people who don't win feel like, my engine didn't
I never
get
got
there.
the chance
I never got the
to use it.
I never, like, I was building something and then I've had it where it's like, oh, well, the game's over. I wanted to like play
Yeah,
2
like I
more
could have gone for another
rounds.
20
I could have
minutes.
kept going a bunch of times, and so that's like to walk out of a game, like having fun, but with that feeling isn't amazing. I would say the other thing that I've just found a little bit is like you get the random starting thing slotted in. I find I a little bit have that, and I've said this in other videos too, but that feeling at the start of the game of like, okay, what the heck do I want to do? Do I want to go all
Yeah.
in on the and you know what the market has can help guide you a little bit, but I still maybe a little too much just feel the like,
It's an open
okay, do I want to
sandbox.
go in on a do I want to go all in on a 12? Do I want to do the
Yeah. I
and it
feel like
maybe is yeah.
I was
I
gonna
was
say I feel like the market helps that a lot. Like because a lot of times you can because you when you buy something you always spend all your money. You don't get to save any.
yeah.
It basically means you're always kind of looking at like what are the most
It's the
expensive
most
ones I
expensive
could get,
thing, yeah.
and usually that'll narrow it down to a few options. So at least it's like okay, like which of these?
And that's what I do. Yeah, it's just like honestly it's less of like the thinking like looking at all the options of what I could afford and what's the best, but it's just like what's the most expensive one I can afford and choose between one of those
Yeah.
and then go with the strategy off of that. And so it's not a big thing. It's just a
We're just
little
a sucker for so much setup
I know,
variability
Ryan,
that
we
it's
really
like
are.
we'd love
I
more
would just
there,
love
but
a
yeah.
little bit, just a, it's like just
Yeah.
it's close, just a little bit more of some direction kind of at the
It is interesting.
beginning.
I suppose you could play a variant, like if you wanted to do like a faster start game where you give everybody not just a 1, but give them like
2 or
also a
3.
2, or like
Yeah.
give them 2 of each and let them pick
Yeah.
1 of each.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to try, and you'd have like a little bit quicker game. It'd be like
Right.
the Terraforming Mars
Yeah.
prelude
Right.
of
Right. Right.
space base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, it's a game I'm actually it's on my wish list. It's one I'm very much considering owning because um those games that just deliver incredible amounts of joy in the core process and have it going on every person's turn. I mean, that's just like
I know these games spoil us, right? Because
I
then you go to
know.
other games and you're like, oh, I gotta like wait
Yeah.
for like something to happen.
I know. I was just playing Earth the other day and was
Yeah.
reminded of the joy when you're doing something on every person's turn. It's just a
Yeah.
mechanic that I'm objectively going to love in every game that does it. So
Yeah.
thank you for the ones that do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing I'll add is at the point now where I don't know if I'm at 20 plays or around there. One thing for me that has kind of now extended my interest in wanting to keep coming back to the game is the fact that I did get the Shy Pluto expansion. And the reason I want to call that out is that expansion is definitely advertised as like it's like this mini campaign that you like play games and unlock things.
Not
And
another
honestly, that's
campaign.
why I didn't ever get it, because I
Don't
was
want
like,
another campaign.
that's not what I want from Space
That's such
Space.
an
Like
odd way to
Space Space,
market
I
it.
just want to
Yeah.
like play one-off games. But finally, like looking to some reviews and stuff, I was like, you know what? It sounds like I could maybe get it and just skip the campaign and just like, add the stuff. And I'm so glad I did that because it
Yeah.
adds some very fun stuff and some new cards. So it is definitely good to know that that's an option. Like if you end up enjoying the game and you want to give it a little bit more legs, don't worry about the campaign thing. Just get it. It's hard to recommend that. Just get it and throw it in. But that's been a lot of fun, kind of adding it in, and I'm happy to play with it and without it. Like depending on the group. But yeah, it's one that I still love getting to the table. Like it's. I feel like it kind of is going to fall into a bit of that evergreen. Like I just don't, at this point, I don't see myself getting tired of it unless I like really played it a lot close together.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a good one. Clearly, Ryan and I like it. Those are our thoughts, our ratings. But the real question is, Ryan, the real question is,
what is it?
Will these folks like Space Space? Is Space Space the right game for you?
If you hate seeing your great strategy ruined by dice or prefer more direct player interaction, Space Base might not be what you're looking for.
But if you love the pure fun factor of rolling dice, you enjoy strategizing around probabilities, and you like customizing an engine with a sense of progression, then Space Base has the potential to be a new favorite.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to check out Space Base for yourself, we have a link down in the description below. That's also a way that you can help support the channel here. We've also got some other past videos here if you want to check them out, and we will see you in the next one.